As a horror fan, have you ever thought that nothing can scare you? This is a really sad thought I've had more than once. And in my yearly series on horror movies that are actually scary, I've had to search far and wide for decent frights. So let's take a trip around the globe and find the scariest horror movies outside of the US. I haven't seen as much horror in the Wonder Down Under, but I have noticed that it often includes the coastline, which makes sense considering it's where people mostly live and the fact everything in Australian water wants to kill you in horrible ways.
What?
It's a shame that there are still like, 3 good shark movies in existence out of thousands? Percentage-wise, that's gotta be the worst subgenre of any medium. Worse than comedy sequels, worse than Disney reboots, and worse than, let's face it, Star Wars. Anywho, while Wolf Creek and The Babadook have their moments, the best and scariest from Australia has to be Lake Mungo. Lake Mungo does incredible work both as a tragic family drama and paranormal horror. This is still the only pseudo-documentary I've seen that could pass for a real documentary, and the big reason for that are the performances. Honestly, it makes the acting in the likes of Savageland look like a puddle of poo. The way the story and horror naturally escalate together is really the star here, because when I started watching, I was captivated by a well-written and sad story, but had no idea how much the horror elements were crawling under my skin until about a third of the way in. I remember covering the screen with my hand and realizing, oh my gosh, I am terrified. It's classy and creepy material. Lake Mungo's pacing won't be for everyone, but it beats the likes of Paranormal Activity into the dirt and should really get more attention. If I could sum up Spanish horror, it would be one word: passion. People cry, people yell, grief and the ravages of war are common themes. It can be a real punch to the gut. Saying that, I can't say these films are often scary, you know? I find it strange how scariest movies of all time lists include The Orphanage and The Devil's Backbone. Scariest ever? Dios mío. Anyway, the scariest Spanish film is Rec. Rec understands how to use what's both in and out of the frame to usher in the terror. Even without the handheld camera, the scenario feels down to earth and entirely possible. The scares intensify perfectly, and what I love, like genuinely adore, is how everything builds and builds to total pandemonium. Oh my god, what is happening? And then it slows down, becoming an entirely new kind of horror. And bonus, unlike other protagonists I could mention, smile, the lead here is interesting, empathetic, and I actually wanted her to survive. Pretty cool. When you think French cinema, you probably think of that joke from Family Guy.
A good-looking, depressed guy smoking a cigarette is not a movie, and your sirens sound like gay guys having a threesome.
But in the mid-2000s came new wave French horror that shotgunned that stereotype's face right off. Gory, aggressively paced, and hyper-violent, movies like Inside, Frontiers, and High Tension did not mess around. And without a doubt, the scariest of these is 2008's Martyrs. There's a point where violence becomes less scary and more hard to watch, and Martyrs does go in that direction in the third act. But those first 2 acts feature scenes of such intense fear, it's paralyzing. There's a good 20-minute or so section that feels like one long scene, where it feels like a threat can come at any time and the plot is in the air, and this uncertainty and unpredictability combined with the scares themselves makes one feel unsafe just by watching. It's a visceral, unforgiving, and very scary movie, with specific shots still etched in my brain. Irish horror has been a more recent fascination of mine. Mother Nature is the most prominent theme, and the second biggest consistency is brutal, tactile violence. And the most terrifying of the bunch is The Hallow. This movie is a great example of why practical effects still matter, and why it ticks me off to no end to see people fall on their swords for boring, shitty visuals.
What the hell is even that?
The Hallow is fast-paced fury once it gets going. What I like most of all is how earthy the movie is. Caked dirt, wet moss, and thick foliage shroud every scene. Monsters appear as if born from the roots of a tree, like if the Uruk-hai from Lord of the Rings went on juice cleanses. This gives the Hallow atmosphere and tangibility, and boy do the practical effects look great. There are several very creepy sequences in the movie, and they demonstrate that horror can be high energy without being schlock. For visuals alone, it's a spooky good time. If I were to write an essay on Japanese horror, I would call it the 3 Gs: ghosts, guilt, and gore. J-horror is infamous, and there are plenty of movies to choose from. The well-shot Ringu, the ominous Cairo, and Audition, winner of the second worst girlfriend ever after MJ from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies.
This isn't about you. This is about me.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
But I'm gonna go with Ju-on the Grudge. Two main things work here. First, it's the combination of set design and cinematography, essentially the geography of the scene. It's so innocuous, yet it works so well at making you feel claustrophobic and wary for new dangers. Hallways and balconies are big locations for scares, and I love how much The Grudge uses setting to its advantage. And second is just how weird The Grudge is. Yes, creepy kids and a gargling voice equivalent of the Cinderella remake are freaky enough. But it's that strangeness, the lack of space and logic, that makes this curse so scary. The experience leaves you unsettled and off-kilter, a twisted, even trippy nightmare for 2 hours. And fun fact, that iconic sound is something the director used to do to torture his sister. What a prick. Similar to Japan, Thailand has a focus on ghosts and guilt, and without a doubt, Shudder is the one that brings the most heat. Shudder still has the best use of jump scares I've ever seen. There's proper build-up, the images are disturbing, and they take a toll on the characters, unlike most horror characters who shrug them off like celebrity manslaughter charges. The story itself I've described before as being a mix of I Know What You Did Last Summer and the game Fatal Frame, and I can only applaud how much mileage they get out of photography as a concept. It's scary as hell, and the fact that these people seem doomed from the start only makes one feel helpless as a viewer, and the idea of a demon literally weighing on someone so deeply disturbed me. Many horror films try to marry their horror and drama, and this marriage often goes about as well as Amber Heard pooping the sheets. But South Korea does it better than anybody, yet their freakiest film is mostly uncomplicated by drama or social commentary. Pure, white-knuckle, bubble-your-britches terror, and that's Ganjiam Haunted Asylum. A lot of found footage fails at establishing a sense of camaraderie. In Ganjiam, it feels real. How characters set up shots, prepare themselves for a rehearsed introduction, how they pump themselves up before the shoot, and all of this is to set you up for what's to come, because holy Christ, you feel like you're going insane. Ganjiam spends about 30 minutes establishing things just to peel them back later on, so that every recognizable setting or object comes back to haunt you. Just one great sequence after another. Once you get to the girl with black eyes making a noise I can best describe as spaghetti on fast forward, all bets are off. So that's my quick tour of some of the scariest foreign films. Subscribe, check out the rest of the channel, you guys are great, and as always, thanks for watching.